Not only do we need to define business analytics, but there's also different types of analytics. There's three main categories: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. For those of you that have taken the data literacy workshop, you should have learned those definitions in that course. But if you don't remember them, we'll do a full recap in this course. So first, if we try to summarize the area of analytics using one simple statement, we can summarize descriptive analytics as what happened. So what has already happened based on data. Predictive is about trying to guess what will happen. So that would be into the future. And prescriptive is about making a decision. What should we do? So again, descriptive is what happened, predictive what will happen, and prescriptive what should we do to make a decision. To expand on those three areas, we'll look at the individual definitions one by one. So the first and full definition of descriptive analytics is using data to understand past or current business performance to make a better decision. So this could be looking at the past year's data to try to get an idea of how business performed, or it could be looking at your sales from yesterday, so current business performance, to try to make a decision. Methods that we use in descriptive analytics can include regular descriptive statistics like the mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, etc. For data that is captured in text or categories, we can use counts and tables. We use a lot of charts, and in this course we'll also be using dashboards, which is something new that we're going to learn about in our business analytics class. I've got some examples of descriptive analytics here. This one's from Statista, which you have access to Statista using your Cambrian College login through the library. It shows global optimism holds steady at 71%. So they asked people across the world in 30 different countries, are you optimistic that next year will be better than the one you just had? And 71% of people said yes. You can see some specific results in different countries here. Like, for example, France, only 41% of people thought that it would be better. And I think the top is India, 90% thought it would be better, with the global average being 71%. An example from Statistics Canada is that using results from the census, they say average weekly earnings in Canada are $1,312.16 as of October 2025. And finally, this is a health-based dashboard. So if you want to view the whole thing, you can click the link. This one is a dashboard because it's interactive, but we'll learn more about dashboards in the next following lessons in the course. But this one shows counts of COVID-related deaths. It is an older dashboard because this one has data and it was last updated in 2024, so they haven't been updating it for over a year now. But you can see by province how many deaths there were, and it makes little charts as well to show when the deaths were in that period. So for example, Alberta had 7, and it shows the reporting dates in the line chart here. There's also more information about total COVID cases. It shows the dates and number of reported cases. There's charts on cases by gender and age, you can see here. This one says age and gender distribution, again, male and female, as of July 20th, 2024. So I guess this one was just the ages. You could see the colors for the different ages and the caseload. This one shows the gender, with the darker blue being male and lighter blue being female. Then it has additional information about COVID, where you can also download the data that was directly used to build these interactive charts. This is descriptive analytics again because it's using things like tables, charts, and descriptive statistics in order to present information about how many people died or were infected with COVID by different characteristics like age group or male female. Another example of type of analytics is the predictive analytics. Predictive analytics is our next definition. It was what will happen in the future. So if we expand that definition, it's to predict the future by examining historical data, looking for patterns, and then trying to extrapolate these forward in time. The methods that we'll learn to do this are regression and time series analysis. So, predictive analytics involves a lot of trying to model what has already happened using a pattern or any kind of curve or line or something you can fit to the data. So I always say if you've ever played Angry Birds, which was popular in the past, you had to drag out this path to try to hit the bird. That's kind of what we're doing with predictive analytics. We're trying to guess at this path in order to get our final result. The next example shows number of smartphone users in the US from 2009 to 2040. So basically from 2009 until when the chart was made, I think in 2025, they have the real data. And then the bars that go from like 2025 all the way up to 2040, that'd be predictions based on the past for how much they think smartphone usage will grow in the United States. And finally, the last example, I'll zoom in a bit more on this one so you can see, is that they had number of cases of COVID. Again, another old COVID related example, up until a certain date. And then beyond that date, they were trying to predict how many cases there would be and how many deaths there would be. So you can see the line in the middle. This one is the estimated number of cases. And then around that, they have a confidence interval, just like we learned to calculate confidence intervals in statistics, for a higher or upper bound of how many people might get it and a lower bound of how many people might get it. And same thing for the deaths. The one in the middle is the predicted one, with the confidence interval being upper bound and lower bound for how many people might die. And you can see that described here. Finally, for our last area of analytics, we had prescriptive analytics, which was about what should we do. It's trying to identify the best alternatives to maximize or minimize your objective. In this class, Business Analytics, we will learn spreadsheet models and optimization in order to do this. So when you do optimization in Excel, we'll learn how you can solve a problem like your maximize survival points problem in Excel using Solver. For those of you that already took the decision models class with Craig, you would have done Solver a bit already, but for some of you it will be new as well. For those of you in other programs as well that don't have to take the decision models course, this will be your first time seeing it, so it'll be an introduction to that. Also, this chart here, if I scroll down in this news article to show you that chart a little bit larger, here it is. This one, it was about COVID again, another COVID related example, projected Ontario deaths over the course of the pandemic. So the reason it is prescriptive, because it's answering what should we do, that they estimated the number of deaths without any public health measures versus with public health measures. So they were trying to say if you do things like work from home or wear masks, it could greatly reduce the number of deaths rather than if there were no public health measures at all. So that was trying to say what should we do by making predictions on what could happen under the two different scenarios. These three areas of analytics, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive, also correspond to the three brain teasers that I asked you in the previous learning outcome. Number of triangles and looking at most popular or spread is descriptive. It's just finding statistics to summarize what happened. Trying to guess if a student will pass or fail the course based on data you do have, that is predictive. And finally, trying to maximize an objective is trying to decide what you should do, what item you should bring, that is prescriptive. So another reason I asked you these brain teaser examples was because they're each meant to correspond to one of the areas of analytics. Something else we always want to do in this course too is to apply it to business situations. So one other thing we want to talk about here is how we relate it back to an actual business example. So a common business example is having to clear seasonal inventory by reducing prices. If you've been shopping recently, you might notice that any kind of Christmas decor or Christmas items are now majorly on sale because stores are trying to get rid of them. But the question is, when should they reduce the price? Like, do they do it right after Christmas? Another example of that is with Halloween candy. Probably, if you've ever been shopping the day after Halloween, you'll notice the candies are usually already 50% off the day after Halloween is done. But for other holidays, when should they reduce the price? For something like Valentine's Day, sometimes you notice the candies and flowers are already on sale on Valentine's Day for the people who are getting them that day. And also another question isn't only when to reduce the price, it's by how much can they reduce it to still make money. Like, can they sell it at 50% off? Can they sell it at 80% off? What is the best price in order to maximize revenue? So related to those questions, we want to think about how we could apply descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. There's no one right answer to these questions. You could have lots of different ways that you could apply these areas, but I want to talk you through a couple. So if I'm talking about descriptive analytics, that could be something as simple as looking at last year's sales, like number sold versus the price you sold them at, to see if you were profitable. Like if last year they decided to put the Christmas items on sale for 50% off on Boxing Day, by looking at how much money they made and how many they sold, that could help them to make decisions in the future. Another example could just be to count how many you have in inventory currently. If you only have like 2 Christmas items left, then you might not be as it might not be as necessary to do a massive sale on them if you're not going to lose money on a massive number of items. So that would be the first one, an example of past information, an example of current information that you can use descriptive analytics to try to make a decision. For predictive analytics, you could look at things like a sales forecast, like based on how many things were selling last year, how many items do you think you can sell this year after the holiday is done. For certain items too, for things like ski coats or ski boots or swimsuits in the summer, you might want to look at even the weather forecast and seasonal trends for when sales should happen. That can help you predict when to put them on sale as well. So you can see trends that have already happened and try to predict how much money you'll make. For things like prescriptive analytics, you'd want to try to maximize your revenue, like the key question says. So max revenue, well, minimizing your inventory. That means trying to keep as few items as possible. You want to get rid of as much as you can while still making as much money you can. Anything with maximizing and minimizing would be an application of prescriptive analytics. So those are some ideas for how you could apply descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive for a real business example. When we actually try to apply these to real business examples throughout the course with real data sets, we will try to follow some basic problem solving steps. The textbook that we have defines a six common steps to solving any problem with analytics. The first one being that you have to recognize a problem exists, then actually define the problem with as much detail as you can. This can include using numbers, variables, etc. You structure the problem. That's basically breaking it down to see how you can solve it. Then you analyze the problem. So starting to look at your data, perform basic statistics, make charts in order to analyze the data that you do have. Then you would interpret the results. In statistics, you would always have to interpret the results. That means say what happened or what the context of the problem was. That's what you do in step 5. That would help you to actually make a decision. And the final step would actually be implementing the solution in your business. In order to do any of these 6 steps, you need to have some kind of data, because business analytics is about using data to make an informed decision. So before we go any further in this course and can actually use data to try to make a decision, we have to review some key definitions related to data. So that's what we'll do in the final video for this lesson.